Hi friends, Angelica here. Welcome back to the Greetery YouTube channel. Today I'm back with two more projects to share showcasing new products from the new Christmas time holiday collection. This new release will be available Thursday in the Greetery shop. We're going to be working with the new attic ornament die and two different ornament box top stamps. I had a lot of fun putting these cards together and I've been looking forward to sharing my process with you. I am a sucker for anything vintage Christmas, and this new Curio attic Christmas ornaments die stole my heart as soon as I saw it. Taking a closer look at these dies, you can see each ornament has small dies included to decorate the ornaments with. I love that these pieces are kept together, so there's not a lot of tiny dies to clip apart or to lose. The decorations can be mixed and matched, giving you lots of decorating options. I die cut heavyweight white cardstock, and I'm going to use distressed oxide inks to ink the ornaments with. I picked a really fun vintage color palette to use, keeping with the vintage look that the ornaments have. I really didn't have a particular order on how I was going to use the inks. I just went with whatever colors I thought would go good together. Now, since these pieces are so small, I did put on one glove to cover my fingertips so I wasn't walking around with stained fingers for the rest of the day. I also relied a lot on my silicone mat, which grips the paper really well. Now, oxide inks stay wet for a while, so my plan was to ink all the die cuts, then glue them together once the ink was dry. I'm going to be using glue, so I didn't want to take a chance adding glue to the wet ink and maybe smearing that ink onto different parts of the ornaments. Oxide inks are just so easily activated to lift off the paper or smear if anything wet touches it. While I was inking up this green ornament, I realized I could dust perfect pearls over each die cut for a beautiful pearlescent look. Since the oxide inks weren't fully dry, the perfect pearls would grab onto the wet ink and give another just gorgeous layer to them. So I went back and I dusted the ornaments I'd already inked, and then for the rest of the pieces, I inked and then dusted with the perfect pearls. And you can really see how shiny the die cuts become with the perfect pearls brushed over it. Just, it really made the ornaments look even more vintage than they already did. Now I'm using a mop brush to dust the ornaments with. This brush came in a watercolor brush set I purchased a couple years ago, and it works perfectly with this pigment powder. The bristles are really soft and picks up the powder easily, and brushing it onto the paper is just easy to do. If you're not familiar with what Perfect Pearls is, it's a pearlescent pigment powder that gives beautiful shine to whatever you're making. You can mix it with water and it gives a really pretty shimmer if you splatter it onto paper, or you can mix it in your watercolors. There's a lot of different things you can do with it, and it just really elevates your projects. The powder comes in a few different colors, and the color that I'm using is called Perfect Pearl. For my very last die cut, I want this icy topper to stay white but still have the pearlescent look. So I'm going to use white pigment ink to ink the paper, and then I'm going to do one last brush with the perfect pearls to have it match all the other ornament pieces. I'm going to be using my favorite glue to glue the pieces with. This is art glitter glue, and I keep some in a small needlepoint bottle. This glue is really thin yet really strong. It dries pretty quickly, so I'm going to be moving quite fast since I only have a couple seconds to move the die cuts into place if I attach them a little crooked. Another tool you're going to see me use is my reverse tweezers, especially when working with tiny pieces. The tweezers make it easy for me to add glue to the back of the die cuts, and then the sharp tip on the tweezers help me move the pieces gently into place. I would say that this tool made this part of the ornament assembly really easy. Well, actually, they made both of these cards a lot easier to make than not having them at all. I have a scratch paper pulled out that I had swatched the oxide inks onto just to make sure I liked the colors together. Now I'm using that paper to dab off any excess glue that I might have added to the die cut pieces. If I have too much glue on them, when I attach them to the ornaments, the glue is going to seep out, and then that glue is going to activate the oxide ink, making it look kind of messy. So dabbing the glue off first gets rid of that risk. I almost made a slight mistake with this green ornament. I wanted the stripes to be on it, and at first didn't realize that they needed to be put on first. I caught myself just in time before I put that middle circle on, so I set the circle aside, added the stripes, and then attached the middle circle on top of the stripes. I'm going to finish up this ornament and then fast forward to putting together the last ornament, where I had a small visitor show up to my surprise. I have a 4-year-old daughter who sets up her workstation next to mine when I'm crafting, and I didn't realize that she had snuck behind me and snagged that pin off my desk. Obviously, once I realized what she did, I quickly took the pin back and asked her to go finish making her own Christmas cards. I thought it was so funny seeing her arm poke out when I was editing this video, so I kept it in for a cute laugh. She is such a sweetheart and definitely makes our life more fun. Okay, so the next product we're going to use is the new Curio Divider and Details die. This divider comes with dotted squares and rectangles, a couple fun sentiment strips. I did snip all the pieces apart off screen, and then I die cut 3 dividers from white cardstock. And now I'm going to ink them with the Festive Berries Distress Oxide ink. You can see I already played around with how I was going to position the ornaments and the accessories in the divider frame. Once I finished inking the first 2 dividers, I glued them together, and then I inked the last divider and brushed perfect pearls, so that also had that pearlescent look to it. And then I glued that last one to the other stacked divider pieces. I wanted to incorporate the dotted squares and rectangles that I had snipped off of the divider die. So I die cut white cardstock with them, and then I inked them with the same oxide inks that I'd used before, and then I positioned them in their divider spots. Now, once I was finished and I put the ornaments on them, I thought that the white background was a little boring, so I pulled out Painterly Stripes background stamp, and then I stamped it with the Stamp Market's Fresh Pink ink, so I had a pink striped background. Now it's time to use the new Ornament Box Top vertical rubber stamp. There's coordinating dies that are sold separately, which we'll be using too. I stamped the image first onto my Misty graph paper, and this is going to help me position my card panel so I know that I stamped it correctly. I used Tailored Expressions Blue Raspberry and Fruit Punch ink, and I'm going to use the Blue Raspberry panel as the main frame, and the red or the Fruit Punch ink is going to be the accessories that is going to sit on top of that blue frame. I'm using the coordinating dies to die cut the accessories out of that frame, and now you can see how it looks with the Fruit Punch on top of the blue raspberry. So we're still sticking with that very vintage color theme. To attach the panel together, I'm going to first glue the frame to the background and then glue the dotted squares and rectangles to their designated spots. I used thin foam squares to attach the ornaments, and the thin foam squares give just the right dimension to these ornaments, making them level with the 3-layer divider frame. Now for the box top frame, I'm going to first add the accessory die cuts, popping them up with more thin foam squares, and then I'm going to add narrow foam strips to the edges of the divider frame, so that will hold the box top higher than everything else on the card. And that's going to finish the first card. Now for the second card, we're going to use the Ornament Box Top horizontal rubber stamp. And this too has the coordinating dies sold separately to die cut those little accessories in the banner. I've already stamped and die cut several frames off screen, and I also made ornaments, this time using colored cardstock. For this card, I wanted to have the ornaments hanging in the frame with a snowy background. So I'm going to ink a card panel with Distress Oxide inks. I'm using salvaged patina and speckled egg colors. I used the speckled egg on the top and bottom of the panel and then finished the middle with the salvaged patina. Once the inking was done, I added a little bit of white acrylic paint to a stamping block and I mixed it with a bit of clean water to thin the paint out. And I splattered the paint onto the panel to give that snowy background look and then set the panel aside to dry. To finish the card, I attached the snowy background to a card base and then I arranged a few ornaments to fit in the frame. I picked the red frame to use, which I had stamped with Tailored Expressions Cherry Pop and Dijon inks. I attached the frame with foam tape and I used thin foam squares to attach the ornaments. Now, before I attached the ornaments, I realized I needed the ornaments to hang on something, so I pulled out my tea ruler and glitter gel pen to draw strings. And at the bottom of each string is where I attached the ornaments. This card has a lot less components to it than the first card, so it was quicker to put together, except for the ornaments. Since I used colored cardstock, I ended up doing a lot of die cutting and gluing, so I ended up putting on a movie to watch and then made, I think, 30 plus ornaments. Regardless, I have lots of ornaments now to use with the rest of the frames that I had stamped. I am so happy with how well these products coordinate with each other. Betsy really knocked this ornament box idea right out of the park. You can find more details on these products and on the rest of the release over on the Greetery blog. There's lots of ideas and inspiration being shared. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I want to thank the Greetery for letting me share my ideas here on the Greetery YouTube channel. That's all that I have. Thanks so much again for stopping by. Take care, friends.